All right. Good morning, folks. I am getting back on task with the Leilani Simon Defense Counsel's opening statement. And today we are going to talk a little bit more about the different kinds of arguments that attorneys will use at a trial. And what we're going to do is we're going to break down the defense opening statement from Robert, I think it's Parisi, and Leilani Simon's murder trial. And we're going to look at some of the ways he tries to convince the jury of his point of view of that the state doesn't have enough evidence to present that's going to prove Leilani Simon as being guilty of her son's murder. Don't worry. I've worked out with my good old friend ChatGPT to try to make this go a little bit more smoothly, make a little bit more sense for everybody. And we're going to kind of learn this a little bit of a different way. What we're going to look at is how some arguments, they might sound good, but they actually don't hold up when you look at them a little bit more closely. Let's do a quick overview. This trial, it's a very emotional case. It involves the death of a child, a very young child. And the defense attorney, he's trying to convince the jury that the state's case is based on nothing but rumors, gossip, and guesses. It's kind of an intense thing if you think about it, to try to balance that out. It's a big job for the jury. But in emotional cases like this one, especially emotional ones, it's really easy to let our feelings take over. And that's where the defense attorney is trying to use some common tactics to steer the jury in his favor. So we're going to go ahead and get on to the first one.
Does the defense wish to make an opening statement?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, I don't intend to speak nearly as long as Mr. Dean did. Because frankly, this whole case is about rumor, gossip, speculation, and innuendo, and ultimately, the state's bold conclusions about what they say happened but can't prove.
Okay, so this tactic, it's pretty much he's misrepresenting the other side. It's kind of a sneaky way of approaching the his whole argument. It's a little bit sneaky. What this is when someone makes the other side's argument sound a lot weaker than it really is, so they can knock it down more easily. Percy says the prosecution's case is built on rumor, gossip, speculation, and innuendo. What he's doing here is he's trying to make it sound like the state has no real evidence and that they're pretty much just guessing. But the prosecution probably actually does have some real evidence, and they're going to show it later on. Excuse me. Hold on one second, please. But the prosecution actually does have some real evidence, or else they wouldn't be taking this to trial with, it costs a lot of money to do this. We all know this. So they probably do have real evidence, but what he's trying to do is he's trying to plant the seed in the jury's mind that this evidence really isn't all that strong. And what that does is it makes it easier for him to knock it down later on. He's setting himself up to succeed. Now, this is a clever way of kind of, twisting the information that both sides have. So pretty much, and this is something we see all the time in our sector, where people will kind of twist things to make it easy for themselves to knock it down later.
Unquestionably, this is an emotional case. I know that. I have 5 children, 4 grandchildren. So I understand how emotional this can be.
So here we have one of the first things Attorney Parisi does is he takes time to recognize that this is an emotional case. He's kind of, validating the jury's feelings that of how, wow, this is so big. And he says, I know this is emotional. I have 5 children, 4 grandchildren, so I get it. So it seems like he's just trying to connect with the jury, right? Here's the thing, though. Even though he says the case shouldn't be decided based on emotions, by bringing up his own family, he's actually trying to get the jury to feel like he's someone they can trust. He's a dad. He's a granddad. And this right here, he's trying to play on the emotions of the jury to win them over, even though he says emotions shouldn't be part of their decision.
Of the state's claims. Bunch of conclusions, bunch of declarations, unsupported by actual evidence. These declarations about she did this at 1 o'clock, she killed Penton. She drove here, and then all of that are their conclusions, what they have decided the evidence shows. But what is important in a trial is this witness stand, where witnesses testify and evidence is presented. It's not what some lawyer says. It's not what the state declares the evidence to be, and that includes this discussion about the statements. Mr. Dean has his ideas of what those statements represent, but that's your job. And it's not to simply rely on the state's conclusions about what they mean. The state has a conclusion. The core conclusion is that Leilani Marie Simon murdered her child.
Okay, so here, this is another common trick that attorneys will use, and that is jumping to conclusions. He's saying that the state's claims are unsupported by actual evidence. That's what he says. But here's the thing. They haven't even presented all their evidence yet. I mean, really, how can he say that when it hasn't even been put out there yet. What he's doing is he's already writing off the state's entire case before hearing everything. It's like saying a movie is terrible without watching the whole thing. He's making a big statement about the case too early without enough proof, which is why this is a case of he's jumping to his own conclusions. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to move along to the next one.
But this case can't be decided based on emotions. It has to be decided on facts and evidence presented in this courtroom. It can't be determined by emotions or their rumors and their gossip and their conclusions. And in the end, what you will determine is that's exactly the foundation.
Okay, so here he's talking about, he's pretty much presenting either or thinking. And that's when someone makes it sound like there are only two choices. But in this case, and in many other cases, there can be more than two conclusions. Percy suggests that the jury has to choose between the two things, deciding the case based on emotions, which he outwardly says are bad, or it based on facts, which he claims the defendant will show, or he will show the defendant isn't guilty. But here's the thing, is the jury doesn't have to pick just one or just two. They can look at the facts and understand the emotions in this case. So making it sound like there is either one thing or the other, he's really oversimplifying things.
The evidence will simply not support that bold conclusion. And that is why, after we've heard all the evidence and all the argument, the evidence will lead you to one place, and that is a finding with respect to murder and concealing the death of another of not guilty. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Purse.
Okay, so what he's doing here is he's assuming the outcome. He is acting as though their argument is already proven without actually going into any detail as to what all has happened in this case. The evidence, he says, the evidence will lead you to one place, and that's a not guilty verdict. But, 1 second here. He hasn't even shown any evidence yet. He's jumping ahead, assuming the jury is going to agree with him without showing them anything. It's like saying, trust me, I'm right, without explaining how or why you're right. So this was a really short opening statement. And we were able to pick a few things that were going on in here, pick them out, and, really kind of look at what the argument is. And, he's trying to win by playing on emotions, even though he claims he's not, twisting the other side's argument. He's jumping to conclusions. He's making things seem like they're either or choice and assuming the outcome without any proof. He's not presenting anything. It's just because I say so. And even though these like seem like they're so simple, they're actually really complicated things to catch. And you can see how he's using these things to, planting all these little seeds to influence how the jury and how, we think. But once, I want to show you guys kind of an even practice for myself, learning what to look for and how to spot when someone's argument doesn't really hold up. So we can stop and, take a little bit of a closer look at what's being said, what's going on around us. If you ever feel like something is just a little bit off, it might be because this either an attorney or someone that you're speaking to, that they are using one of these tricks. So I wanted to thank you guys for taking the time to join me today and look at, all of these different ways that attorneys argue their cases and kind of piece it apart. Um, if you found any of this helpful or interesting, please hit the like button, share it with your friends, and of course, subscribe so you don't miss any more of my future content. And let's keep learning all of this together. And then that way we can have more engaged conversations with each other and think critically, make better decisions. There was something else I was going to say. I forgot what it is. Oh, if you guys have any questions, or if there's any other places that you think that you see some other, kind of these tricks that I've showed you today, if there's anything that you see in there, put it in the comments below and we can talk a little bit more about it. Hopefully, as time goes on, we're going to get more people, or we're going to get some people participating in the chat, and we can talk a little bit more about this. So there's a lot more information that is in the following witness testimony that I've kind of gone a little bit ahead and looked at some of it. And I think it's really interesting to take a look at. So once again, thank you so much for all of your time, and hit the like button, and everybody have a great day. Thank you.